In this video, I'm going to cover 5 tips, strategies, call them whatever you want, that helped me to go from this to this. Am I the biggest? No. Am I the leanest? No. But have I done a successful job at bulking up, gaining weight without gaining too much fat? I would say so. If you clicked on this video, you're most likely one of these 2 types of people. The first one is you're someone who hasn't actually bulked before. This will be your first bulk, and you just want to make sure you're well educated, well informed, and it goes as easy and as efficient for you as possible. The second type is you're already in your bulking journey, but the issue is your appetite is declining, the weight is stuck, it's not going up, your food is not as enjoyable anymore, you don't feel like eating, the surplus isn't surplusing, and you're trying to find how to fix that and how to progress further on. So if that is you, one of those 2, then you found the right video for yourself. I will start off with what I believe to be more known and more obvious things that you can do to make your bulking easier. But then again, if this is your first time bulking, these things could also be new to you. If you're someone who's in the middle of your bulk, you might already know about these, you might already be using them. But as the video goes on, the things that I will cover will get more and more niche down, more and more specific. And as cliche and as overused as it sounds, the last thing that I'm going to mention is something that I've never ever heard anyone talk about before. And if you think I'm lying and think that this is yet again the psychological marketing thing that people do on the internet, you can go to this timestamp and check out for yourself. Before I get into the strategies, for those who are going to be bulking up for the first time, I want to make 3 things clear. Number 1, you will only gain weight if you're in a caloric surplus. What that means is eating more calories that your body requires to maintain the weight that you're sitting at now. So your maintenance calories. In my opinion, the bare minimum that you should have as a surplus on top of your maintenance calories is 100 to 200 calories. And that's going to make your bulk as lean and as slow as it is physically possible to do so. So it is going to be utterly painfully slow. You're going to be putting on about 200 grams, a quarter of a kilo a week, if that. I'll put in brackets what it is in pounds. I think that's like half a pound. So it will be very, very slow, but you'll minimize the amount of fat that you're going to put onto your body. So that's a good thing. As for the top end, I would not recommend going anything above 800 calories as a surplus on top of your maintenance calories. I know that it can be tempting to put on as much mass as physically possible in as little time as you can, especially if the reason that you started to bulk up is because you've been bullied before for being skinny, or you just don't like the way you look and you want to be bigger. But if you go anything above 800 calories as a surplus, I wouldn't even do 800. Like, personally, the most I would do is 700, 600, but like 800 is the absolute limit. If you go anything above that, you're going to gain I'm going to try not to cuss, an insane amount of unnecessarily fat, which you will then have to strip off by cutting, and that is just something that you wouldn't have to do if you were to bulk a little bit leaner, a little bit slower pace. But then again, it will save you time and you wouldn't have to cut for like 1, 2, maybe even 3 months after that. Now that is assuming that you are bulking up to achieve an aesthetic physique that is of someone like David Lade or Alex Eubank or Hussein Farhad. If that is not you and you want to put on as much size as physically possible and you don't care about how much body fat you put on, powerlifters, I'm joking. If you're someone like who's training to be a strongman, or you just genuinely don't care about how lean you're going to be, then this doesn't apply to you. Put as much surplus as you want. Number 2, you will not be able to keep an accurate record of how many calories you consume within a day without actually tracking the calories that you consume within that day. And for those who haven't done this before, I know that this sounds so overwhelming and stressful and confusing and so long and time consuming, but I swear, I promise you guys, once you get the hang of it, how to use the app, I personally use MyFitnessPal. I'll recommend that to you guys, but you can try something else that's out there. I don't even know what there is, 'cause that's just what I've been using, but you can like go into your own research about that. But MyFitnessPal is more than enough. You don't even need the premium version. Even with the normal one, with the one that you don't pay for, once you log in the foods and you save them that you constantly eat throughout the day that are repetitive, it will take you no longer than 10 minutes. It will take you about 5 minutes each day, 5 minutes total, to track everything for all of your meals. And finally, number 3, your maintenance calories. So the calories that you need to consume in order to cancel out the calories that you burn throughout the day to sustain your body weight and not go up or go down. they will eventually increase as you put on weight. So it does not stay like this. It goes something like this. What that means essentially is it will take more calories for you to consume in order to sustain the body weight that you are going to be at a few weeks from now or a few months from now. For example, if you are 60 kilos of body weight and your maintenance is 2,500 calories, let's say you decide to be in a 500 calorie surplus, so you consume 3,000 calories a day, each day, and you bulk up to 65 kilos. Chances are, once you put on those 5 kilos, your maintenance calories will then become what your bulking calories were. So it will become 3,000 calories. So the 3,000 calories that you were eating to bulk up will actually flatten out, and that is the amount of food and liquid calories that you will need to consume in order to maintain that body weight and not fall down. Meaning that you will then have to increase your surplus yet again. But that does not mean that you have to double the surplus. So if you were in a 500 calorie surplus and you were gaining weight and then you plateau, that does not mean you have to put another 500 on top of it. What I would recommend is once you see that your weight has been stuck and it's not going up, which for that you need to be tracking your body weight every single morning. And the reason you do that in the morning is because you want to do it before you have any food, before you have any water or any other liquids. Otherwise, it's just not going to be as accurate and as reliable as it will be if you weigh yourself in the morning before you have any food, any water, etc. And so if you are weighing yourself and you see that for about 4 days minimum, but ideally if you see that, I mean, it depends on how aggressively you're bulking up. But if you want to take it at like a moderate pace, being around 400, 500 calories of a surplus, if you see that for a week straight your weight is not going up, as a minimum 4 days, but check it for a week, then add on another half to 65%, 70% of the surplus that you initially used. So if you put 500 calories on top of your maintenance and your body weight flattens out and doesn't go up, add another 250 to 375 calories on top of that. 250 to 400. You don't need to double the same amount of calories that you put on initially. And again, it doesn't have to be complicated. It is very simple. All you have to do is step on the scales every single morning. Personally, I just do it the second I wake up. Step on the scales, write your body weight down. I just write in my notes. You can write in your like a physical notebook or whatever you want. Just make sure you are keeping track of the weight, because you will not be able to remember what your weight is like a week from now, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, and so on. Okay, with the basics of the basics out of the way, let's finally get into the 5 tips that I got for you guys. The first tip is to go for calorie rich and macronutrients rich foods. So foods that provide a lot of calories and also have a decent macros palette. So protein, carbs and fats. Yes, it's good if a food has a lot of calories, but if most of those calories are fats, if it's like 30 grams of fats and 10 grams of protein, it's not quite the food that you want to consume. You just end up getting an unnecessary amount of fat. You get filled up and you don't even get to the protein goal that you should get to. Yes, having something that has a lot of calories is nice, but if most of those calories come from fats and carbs as well, and there's barely any protein, not quite ideal. Another thing you should consider is that you should go for foods that are not easily fulfilling or filling up. What I mean is, like, let's take for example a source of carbs, source of carbohydrates. Let's take rice and potatoes. 100 grams of rice and 100 grams of potatoes is more or less the same calories. It's like 110, 120 calories, right? But 100 grams of rice, it's like a handful. You can like put it in your mouth and water it down with water and feel like you just ate a strawberry. Whereas 100 grams of potatoes, you have that and you're already starting to feel like, oh, it's like, you know, maybe not from 100 grams, but you know what I'm trying to say. Go for foods that are not as filling up on your stomach. The second tip that I have is to decrease the volume of your meals and increase the frequency of them. If you're having 3 meals in a day, have 4 or 5. And this is something that I used to misunderstand back in the day, and I literally only understood this like a month ago. I was thinking to myself, I would tell people, hey, I'm struggling to bulk up. I'm having 3 big meals a day and like I just can't do it. And they're like, just have more meals. And I'm thinking, if I'm struggling to have these 3 meals that are so huge and calorie dense, how am I going to do it for 4 or 5 meals, right? But when you have more meals, that doesn't mean that you have the same amount of food as you have in those big 3 meals. What you do, or what I would recommend, which is something that I do, is you take anywhere from 55 to 65% of your overall meal and you have that as two separate meals. Okay, you're probably going to see a difference in the color scheme and the angle the camera is on, because I have so little space on my phone that my camera literally stopped recording because I ran out of space, so I had to like make up space and then start recording again. Anyway, as I was saying, you would have the big meal and then you would split it into two meals, and you take 55 to 65% of the total meal's portion. With my case, for example, my big meal consists of 300 grams of minced beef. So what I would do is I would split into two meals, where in each meal I have anywhere from 155 grams of minced beef to 170. The two main benefits of doing this is that, first one, you do not get as full as easily, and you can eat faster than you would if you were to have a big meal. For example, if you have your big meals, it takes you 4 to 6 hours to feel hungry again and feel like you can stuff another big meal down. If you split your meals this way, you'll feel hungry enough to eat quite literally every 2 to 2.5 hours, making it easy to eat 4, 5, even 6 meals a day. The second thing is that you get extra calories and extra macros without the cost of filling you up too much. Like an extra 5 grams to 20 grams of minced beef makes no difference whatsoever if you split your meals apart. Number 3, liquid calories. Protein shakes or other calorie shakes are going to be your best friend. You can easily stuff down a third of your total calories for the day that you should consume in one shake, but it is strongly something I do not advise you doing. And I'm going to base this on a personal story. When I was bulking up in my first year of the gym, I would have a shake at the end of every single day that would consist of like 800 calories. I would have it right before going to bed. At the time, I didn't even track my calories. What I did is I would step on the scale at the end of the day, and if I wasn't heavier than the day before, I would most definitely have the shake, but I would just have it regardless anyway. And while it did help me bulk up, because I would have so much milk and dairy in there, so it would be like 300 to 400 milliliters of milk, a protein liquid yogurt, bananas, some berries, some honey. Because I had so much food chocked down in quite literally seconds, I ended up having gastrointestinal issues and with my digestion, which caused me to lose 8 kilos in quite literally 4 days, because I simply couldn't look at food, let alone eat food. For the first day, I was vomiting half of the day, and then for the next 3, when I would look at food, I would feel sick. I would feel like I was gonna vomit just from the first bite. Or even if it would be like soup, I couldn't even have soup. I actually became lactose intolerant, which I wasn't before, because like I said, the main thing in the protein shakes was milk. And now if I were to have milk, my stomach gets upset. So please do not try to stuff as many calories in as little time as possible. I know it's tempting, but one, it can put a lot of damage on your digestion system, especially if you have those shakes quite close to the bedtime, especially if you're laying down, because in that case your digestive system is working slower and less efficiently, and it takes you longer to digest everything and process the food. If you are going to implement protein shakes into your diet, which I do recommend doing, I would recommend not putting anything more than 800 calories in the shake, and especially not having them close to bedtime. Shakes should not become a replacement to your diet, just like any other supplement. It should be an addition to the diet that you already have. So if you went through your whole day and you realized that you couldn't get an extra 500, 600, 700 calories down, maybe it's too hot, maybe it's too late, maybe you forgot to cook, fair enough, go for it, have a shake. But do not have more than 800 calories in one shake, especially close to bed. If you want to have more calories being consumed from liquid calories because you struggle to get food down, feel free to have 2 shakes in a day. So if you want to consume 1.5k calories worth of liquid calories, just have 2 shakes that are 750 calories each. Tip number 4, walk more. I know it sounds counterproductive and counterintuitive, because walking around means moving, and moving means burning calories, and burning calories on the bulk means you're going to have to consume more calories. So why would I do that? Yes, but walking is not sprinting or running or swimming or skipping on a rope. For reference, after walking 10,000 steps, I burn not even 400 calories. It's just about around there. It's just easily like 4 bananas. So no, walking isn't going to kill your gains and cost you to eat another 2 to 3 meals on top of that when you're already full and bloated and you can't be asked to eat or look at food. And the reason I suggest walking is because it helps to kickstart your digestion. I know that you're tempted, especially after a big meal or towards the end of the day once you had a lot of food, to just sit back or lay back after you had your meal because you feel so bloated and sluggish and full and you can't move. But I'm telling you, you can get rid of that feeling the second you start walking after your meal. And it does not have to be a massive walk. Just go outside, go for 1,000 steps. That's like 5 to 10 minutes of walking and you'll be fine. Kickstarting your digestion and making it more effective as soon as possible means that you can get your next meal down ASAP and you don't have to wait as long as you would previously. Another thing I would suggest, and this is for people who struggle to eat food for breakfast. Yep, that's me. I literally cannot look at food when I wake up. I feel like vomiting just by thinking about food. So what I would suggest again is to walk before you have breakfast. Again, you don't need to cross borders with your neighboring country. Go outside for 5 to 10 minutes, get that vitamin D, improves your immune system, improves your mental health. Unless you're in the UK and there's no sun, although in the summer, like right now, I'm literally sweating recording this video and I'm just sitting down. But anyway, just a 5 to 10 minute walk is more than enough. And last but not least, tip number 5. And like I said, this isn't something that I've heard anyone else talk about before or discuss or suggest or recommend. And that thing is to have a little sweet or a fruit or gum after each one of your meals. And there's a reasoning for that. The reason that you don't feel like eating any more food is either one of the two options. The first one is the most obvious one that basically everyone knows about. You are quite literally full. There is no more space in your stomach. You've eaten as much food as physically possible that you can fit in until you start digesting it and it moves down your body. The second thing is something that's less obvious to people and not that many people know about, and that is flavor fatigue. And the best way to describe this is if you go to a restaurant. Once you have the main dishes and you feel like, oh my god, I can't even look at the food that was in front of me 10 minutes ago. I would feel sick just by looking at it, let alone to have one bite. But the second your mom asks if anyone wants ice cream, anyone wants dessert, all of a sudden you feel like you can stuff a tiramisu and 3 scoops of ice cream with no issue. That's not some mystical, magical thing that your body or your mind does. It is simply you going from one taste overload to another. The main taste buds that get triggered and the main taste that gets overloaded when you have main dishes is saltiness and spiciness. So if you eat salty and spicy food, like any food is going to be salty to an extent, right? But it's also just the fact that you have the taste of the same food for an extended period of time, which is why I would suggest to have something little that doesn't fill you up and intervene with having more meals later down the line, but something that's going to change the taste in your mouth. Because let's say that you eat the exact same thing for lunch and dinner. If you just had lunch and you don't have anything in between lunch and dinner, the thing that you're going to be tasting in your mouth is what you just ate. And psychologically, because you're swallowing your saliva every now and then and it tastes like that food, your brain constantly thinks that you're having that food. And the second you sit down to have dinner, and something that I've experienced, I feel hungry. I feel like I can eat that meal with no ease. But the second I sit down in front of it and I even get the smell of it, or like the first bite, I'm like, man, I don't feel like eating this. I feel sick and I haven't even like started eating it or got even halfway through. And that is because you've psychologically overloaded your taste buds by constantly tasting the same thing for the last few hours. So to not have that issue, please have like a gum or a sweet or a fruit, or even like drink something after each and every single meal that you have to change what you taste. And this brings us to the end of the video. Again, to summarize everything that I've said: 1. Go for calorie rich and nutrient rich foods, and also foods that don't fill you up easily. 2. Spread your meals out throughout the day. Less volume, more frequency. 3. Liquid calories, protein shakes, rather calorie shakes. 4. Go on walks after your meals. Or if you struggle to have breakfast, go on a walk before having breakfast. And number 5, have a little something after every single meal, whether it's a sweet, gum, fruit, whatever you want it to be. If this video was useful and informative to you enough to think, damn, I didn't know about this, or damn, I didn't think about that before, please engage with it, like, comment, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. I know that you probably couldn't care less about doing that, but just think about it. If I could help you out, the more engagement this video has, the more potential it has to reach more people just like you, meaning that I can help others just like I helped out you. Because that's primarily why I'm making content like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.